All right. All right. I know. It's a good team. It's a good team. You played them down to the wire, right? Five defensive starters missing. You hold the Packers to 24 points. It's the second lowest points they've been held to all year. Jordan Love, full credit to Jordan Love. Jordan Love might make some risky Favrean type decisions at times, as he did in this game, but it's weird because he's smart as hell. If he weren't so smart, he'd be damn near Jameis Winston level of some of the weird throws that he makes. But the one thing the Texans did, and I'll get to the offensive line, and thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video. The offensive line, I'm going to fight real hard for it not to be the lion's share of everything I complain about, and that includes a lot of you guys that are angry at the running backs or tight ends in pass protection. It still starts with the offensive line. But I digress for a little bit until I get back to the offensive line. Jordan Love, he can make some incredible throws, but also one thing he did really well was just diagnosing when the blitz was coming, figured out what the coverages were using a lot of the motion that the Packers use. And again, it was a great defensive performance considering that they were down 5 starters today, but not good enough, too soft at the end. I share the frustration that it seems like sometimes I understand that the Texans have deficiencies in man coverage at this point, but trying to limit Jordan Love and the Packers from getting to field goal position maybe requires something a little bit more aggressive than playing extreme off coverage. As far as the offensive line goes, I'm going to play. I've got one clip here, and this sums it all up, really. Okay, 3rd and 9. Play fails. CJ has to throw it away, and I will not blame specifically Laramie Tunsil or Dare Ogunbowale here because the rules change based on game to game how they're going to handle this. But just watch. One of those two guys screws up and screws up bad. So you've got an edge rusher out there to our left. Laramie looks like he's part of turn protection, so he's turning in. But Ogunbowale is also going inside. So that leaves defensive end just completely untouched, unfettered. Just free to the quarterback. And there's times where when they have this overload blitz look, sometimes Dare Ogunbowale will take the inside guy and Laramie will stay outside. The one thing that I wonder about is here, you see Laramie, look, he's got a great view of CJ Stroud. As if he's saying uh-oh, I left something. Oh, that's right. I remember what I left. I left the iron on. And it's over and over and over again. And they have to use this turn protection all the time because the offensive line can't be trusted to pass protect. They get done in by stupid, simple stuff. I know there's high school coaches watching who are both frustrated but also empathize with dealing with guys that can't pick up simple twists, that movement by the defensive line just screws them up completely. Bobby Slowick is not excused from any of this because all of the things that you should be doing to allay issues with pass protection like screens. They can't set up screens. They're sniffed out. Was there a screen today? The best screen they have is a now route to Nico Collins when he can just break a tackle and go, which is the same damn thing that the Texans did back in my day when offensive coordinators would get fired because at times the only offense was throwing a now route to Andre Johnson and have him break 4 tackles. That's what it looked like. Joe Mixon was freaking awesome. Joe Mixon was awesome, and it was all his own doing. It was him finding the best seam through inadequate blocking, jump cutting 7 or 8 times to either get a touchdown or to get 3 or 4 yards. They figured him out in the second half, and the Packers, full credit to the Packers on all this. I'm not going to be accused of not giving the Packers credit, but man, they let one slip away. They really let one slip away today. In the game management, I've fought complaining about the game management, but there are a couple things today, and I'll start off with D'Amico. Whatever the hell happened on that lateral, which was definitely a lateral, where either a challenge flag wasn't thrown in time or a timeout wasn't called to give time to review it and figure it out, but the next play is a 30-yard touchdown. I don't know what was going on there. So the feet stuck in the mud on that one. Maybe with the report afterwards, it'll come out that the officials botched it somehow. And then at the end of the game, look, I can appreciate the strategy of grinding clock And the Packers had one timeout left when the Texans were down before they kicked that final field goal to go ahead. I can appreciate that, but if you're grinding clock and you grind clock so well that it's 3rd and 15, you throw a pass that, even if it was completed, was still going to stop the clock and doesn't get you any. You're not in better field goal position. There was a chip shot field goal at that point. I don't understand. If you're going to grind clock, grind freaking clock, and then you throw a pass on 3rd and 15. I don't get it. And Bobby Slowick is responsible for the pass protection. He's responsible for the run blocking. It's just atrocious. The blitz pickup is absolutely nil. And it's stuff, a lot of the stuff the Packers were doing today was stuff that was bothering the Texans in week 1 versus the Colts. Exact same stuff. That play that I just showed you. They overload to one side, and then they know that the Texans offensive line are going to get in their little hole, and they don't want, it's almost like they're frightened. Like they don't, when you're a kid and you're scared of the dark, sometimes when you're 49 and you know that there might be a monster in the room, and yeah, you're too afraid to do anything about it. That's what Kenyon Green is like sometimes. He's terrified of the monster that might be a defensive end or a looping defensive tackle. So instead, he just stays under his covers, and then he looks, and then he peeks to watch CJ get his kidneys lacerated. It's a bad place to be. I tell you what, it brings me no joy to tell you that I won my bet taking the under, and that I won taking the Texans because it
bonus. They've got
stop
the
it,
fast.
Seth. It's the wrong clip. Damn it. 150% sign-up bonus at BetUS right now. 150% they'll give you, up to $2,000. 125% on your second and third deposits. I thought it was going to be a lower scoring game than everybody thought it was going to be. I predicted Packers 22, Texans 21. So when the Texans were at 22 and the Packers were at 21, I knew that Jordan Love was over there, so it wasn't like it was a done deal or anything. Yeah, you got to use the offer code. You got to use the offer code there. That's a copy from last week. YouTube 150. Use the offer code, damn it. Trying to give BetUS their money's worth while I'm so freaking agitated. The defense. All right. I've seen a lot of people talking about how the Texans absolutely 100% have to get a safety, and a safety is what they need. Turn on the film from last week. Buda Baker was not the answer for the Cardinals, okay? Buda Baker shows up a lot in a lot of those touchdowns. So they don't need a safety. They need somebody that can cover man. They don't have enough guys, even when Lassiter is out there, to cover man. And because Jalen Petry's doing an awesome job with what they're asking him to do, but he's not a guy you want in the slot versus really good wide receivers, or even just good wide receiving cores like they had there today. Murray, we know, is the same way. Does a lot of things. He's good, versatile, but you need guys who can cover man. So they were shy of guys that could cover man today. D'Angelo Ross, as opposed to going to a rookie quarterback like Mac Jones with no wide receivers, they're going to pick on D'Angelo Ross a little bit. So whether it's a defensive back of some sort, I would prefer a cornerback with cover skills at this point that can, because he's who can be a genuine slot corner. Because Petry's not a genuine slot corner. He's a safety who can play slot. But he's a nickel linebacker. The offensive line, as many of you are just joining us, don't worry. I devoted a lot of time to the offensive line, and I will continue to devote time to the offensive line. It's the mental errors. I can deal with guys getting beat physically. It's the freaking mental errors and the stuff that keeps showing up, like the Colts blitzes that the Texans saw today, that they still haven't figured out how to block. That's what bothers me. That's what annoys me. Joe Mixon, awesome. We've already talked about Joe Mixon. Neville Hewitt, solid game. I don't know if he could have carried more. I don't think, no, on that first touchdown to the tight end, Bullock could have gotten his hands on that if he had anticipated a little bit earlier, but that was right back into the zone, at the back of the end zone there. He doesn't realize that these good games come down to one or two plays, period. Are you talking about Slowick or me? Damn it. I just don't know. Field goal call is primarily D'Amico's call. Right. The conservatism at the end, and this is something that I know a lot of Kyle Shanahan descendants either suffer from, or it's a strength because D'Amico's been really good in one-score games, is that you take the clock down as much as possible. And again, you take the clock down as much as possible. Ideally, you kick the field goal and you win, but you also soak up enough time that Jordan Love doesn't have enough time to get down on a drive. And so that's this one. You can go either way. You say, look, go for a touchdown there, and then it's a moot point, and he's going to have to go down and score a touchdown to win the game. But if you are, this is what I don't. If you're grinding clock, you're running the ball when you know you can't really run the ball. It gets to be 3rd and 15. The Packers have one timeout, and then all of a sudden you abandon grinding clock. That's what I do. I just don't get that, and I'm sure D'Amico will. I hope he'll be asked a question about that in the press conference. Sometimes those questions get whatever. Oh, freaking A. Special teams and Jordan Love are really the reason the Texans were in the game. I know this isn't going to be a popular take right now. I'll credit the defense for playing a hell of a game against a really good offense, well down 5 starters. And at the end there, they could have been much better. They were aggressive in their play calling. They did blitz at least a couple times on that last drive, but they gave the blitz away. There was another time too, one of those screens as Green Bay was down in the red zone. It was just it wasn't Jake Hanson's fault, but the Packers do a really good job of diagnosing with motion beforehand. And you saw Love sent the running back out of the formation, saw that Jake Hanson was following him, brought the running back in, and then Hanson's like acting like he's going to blitz. Well, clearly he's already played his hand, and he ends up dropping back. Like, there's a lot of that stuff that happens to backup players more often than it happens to veteran players or the starters. So, but I think Neville Hewitt, one of the reasons they're in the game. My gosh. Yeah, Neville Hewitt's really done some good things. I think, honestly, yeah, that's a sum total of it. The Texans are 5-2. They lost to a good team on the road today. And so that is what it is. They beat the spread for whatever that's worth. But this offense is just stuck in the mud. I mean, if there's one thing that's going to hold this team back from being a genuine Super Bowl contender, it's that their offense and their offensive line specifically just isn't getting the job done. Some of the stuff that we get frustrated with in the quick passing game is also an offshoot of that, because they're guys, there's times when there's 7 guys in blocking and they get beat by a 5-man pass rush and with multiple guys free. Do you fire the offensive line coach mid-season? I don't know. Is the assistant offensive line coach going to do any better than Chris Strausser? If this keeps up, I mean, if they don't figure this out by the end of the year, they got to do something. They certainly have to do something in the offseason. Nico Collins, get well soon. Yes. The play calling, the play calling, you know what? I want to spend a little bit more time with it, because part of the play calling ends up being just not executing the plays properly, which is still Bobby Slowick. I haven't had as much of an issue with the play calling, other than that game management situation, as I have with just the poor execution of the scheme itself. Those wham plays that worked so well last week, those are nice little change-ups, but that's not what your steady diet can be. Good defensive linemen. I was watching the Patriots versus those whams, and I'm like, my God, you idiots. You freaking idiots. It's the easiest play in the world to beat if you've got defensive linemen that know what the hell they're doing, and those guys were just clueless. They were just idiot chickens running around with their heads cut off. That analogy probably doesn't play as well as it did back in the day. See, when you kill a chicken, you cut its head off, and it'll still keep running around like it's got a head. Doesn't know where it's going. It's very poorly, like it wouldn't win a slalom race or anything. But that's what the Texans' offensive line looks like at times. Chickens with their heads cut off, except less ornery. If I would take an ornery dead chicken with its head cut off, I'll tell you guys a story about Blobby sometime. Blobby, the rooster that terrorized me. Yeah. Thoughts on Autry? Not yet. I didn't watch Autry closely enough. So the defense, I won't give any grades until I can rewatch the entire game. But my God, this is driving me insane. That's again full credit to the Green Bay Packers. Full credit to Jordan Love, despite his Jameis Winston-like interceptions at times, he does show like the makings of an extremely intelligent quarterback. That's the difference, though. There's a difference between intelligence and judgment. Exhibit A, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you guys know this, but he went to Harvard. And yet, for the first half of his career, had some of the most mind-numbingly stupid interceptions known to man. And he figured it out. He figured the judgment part out, partly with his stint with Bill O'Brien. But so that's where Jordan Love needs to work on. He's very solid. Like, he showed lots of evidence of being super smart. He's just got to figure the judgment part out a little bit. A little more brains, a little less testicles. He's got to find that balance as a football player. Defensive lineman, go hard on lean into the testicles. Quarterback, lean a little bit more into the brain, okay? It's not 1993 anymore. You can't get away with Brett Favre tactics all the time. Yeah, he does have an arm. All right, I gotta compile some highlights that I can react to and or lowlights that I can react to, and I'll be on KHOU tonight at 10:30. But I'll try to get the press conference reaction out sometime in between now and then. This is very frustrating. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Jeez.